Time now to check in with the Money Desk this hour. Devin Murugan is with us. Of course, the economic spotlight is on this week's mining Indaba that's taking place in Cape Town. And the idea is to push South Africa up that index of attractive mining destinations. We've been going down there. We've been slipping to the bottom despite a boom that we've seen in the sector in recent months.
Yes, indeed, brother. And I want to tell you, we've spoken about this before, that mining plays a pivotal part. I mean, 450,000 employment numbers. These are the amount of people employed in the mining sector. But then there's also a question of how much tax income it brings in. Let's take a very quick look to see very quickly what the mining sector does in terms of contributing to our tax income coffer here. So total corporate tax, 318 billion rand, just corporate tax in 2021. But you zone in on the mining sector and you'll see that last year there was a commodity boom, 127 billion rand. Now, wondering what this is about? Well, the main conversation this morning with the Minerals Council is that, look, in order for us to actually get more investment, we've got to be able to take our commodities, to take what we produce and get it out of the ports, but it highly depends on those transport infrastructure, rail in particular. So if you zone in on one particular mining sector, let's take coal, for example, the total capacity of the rail sector, taking in tonnage terms, in terms of Transnet Rail, for example, that total capacity is 780 million tons. But here's the problem. Because of the infrastructure around rail, the dilapidating infrastructure, we've actually gone down to just 58 million tons. What have we would have brought if we operated on 78 million tons, an extra 31 billion rand. And therein lies the problem. Transnet's working on it. We've got the private sector firms also coming in. There's theft, there's vandalism, and some of the train carriages are not working. So a big problem for the Minerals Council. And you'll find that people like Exxaro, for example, coal producers, have highlighted this. Tungela Resources telling us this year they would have made much more money had it been for a network that carried their resources out. But that's just infrastructure. The mining Indaba addresses much more issues around the mining sector. I want to bring in Rupiwa Madzena. She's been covering the mining Indaba for us in Cape Town. Rupiwa, thanks very much indeed for talking to us, if you can hear me. So we've dealt with infrastructure, but then there's also this big issue about energy transition from coal moving on to something that's a bit more renewable. I believe Gwede Mantashe, the Minerals Minister, had a chat with some of the journalists. What's that issue around the transition looking like for him at this mining Indaba?
That's right, Devin. So we had a media briefing with Minister Gwede Mantashe a little bit earlier on this afternoon, and that was obviously one of the first questions that was posed to the minister and the rest of his team. So he had his acting DG as well as the deputy minister along with him to answer some of those questions. And basically the question that was posed was, when are we not going to be using coal in South Africa? Is it in the next few years, or will it take longer? And the explanation here, Devon, was there's no such thing of phasing out coal in South Africa. What it is that a lot of the plants that are operating, that are using coal, their life is coming to an end, and so they will be naturally decommissioned. And then also it's about creating a power mix where we will have coal, and then the ones that have been decommissioned, Devon, are to be used then to process renewable energy. So all of those deadlines are coming up by 2030. I think he wanted to say about 18% will be made up of renewable energy, and then by 2050 some other targets that have been set by the department as well. But let's just listen in on the minister's response when it came to the energy mix that's set to be introduced in South Africa.
We are expecting renewable energy to increase by 18% by 2030. That is IRP 2019. We're expecting to bring 3,000 megawatts of gas power into the stream. We're looking at investing in battery industry. we are looking at 1,500 megawatts of coal. And many people ask me, I would imagine that that question will follow. Why coal in this time and age? We are looking into cleaner coal technology.
All right, so while that is happening, while we are looking towards moving away from coal and having this just transition, currently, Rupiwa, what some of the mining houses and the mineral councils are saying, hey, listen, we've got to get mining exploration rights awarded to companies at a faster pace. You look at countries in Africa, that's happening quite speedily, and it's bringing in the investment, it's bringing in the tax revenue. That's one hot topic as well, and I'm wondering whether or not the minister was quizzed on speeding up those exploration rights.
Indeed, Devin, I posed the question to the Minister around the exploration policy in South Africa because, as he correctly said, it's something that has been brought up a number of times on the first day of the conference. So he explained, which is actually quite good news, Devin, that the exploration strategy for South Africa has been gazetted and it's been put out for public commentary. In that, there's going to be various stakeholders, including mining houses, who will comment on the strategy that he highlighted, by the way, was developed between the mining houses and government and related stakeholders. And then afterwards, it will then be implemented into law in South Africa, where investors, potential investors, can come into the country and look for minerals wherever they may be in the country. And he said that's a good thing because we are going to see more and more people coming into South Africa, given that we are a primarily mining country. And then he also highlighted that there shouldn't be this worry about BEE, because at exploration stage, Devin, there is no need for a BEE certificate or ownership, because there's no actual money that's being made at that stage. It's just exploration. It is only when the minerals have been discovered and the mining happens do policies then change for the people that are operating in the country. But let's just listen in and hear him explain that point further.
Exploration. It's quite an important phase of mining because people always think of exploration as something that is complex. It is about finding out what deposits are there, what quantities of a deposit, what qualities of a deposit are there. We have gazetted the exploration strategy. Therefore, when it is gazetted, we're open for public comments. Though in developing it, we work closely with the mining industry. So it was not a departmentally owned driven strategy, it was a sector driven strategy.
All right, thanks very much indeed, Rupiwa Madzena. I mean, I guess we'll hear more from you as the afternoon turns into evening at the mining Indaba in Cape Town. So you'll wrap up for that on that conference later on the evening bulletins. Thanks.